Right, Civil War came out. I've watched it. Culture's watched it. Chris hasn't watched it. However, he'll sort of chime in here and there on some little bits and pieces that he's aware of in the broader scope of the industry. I haven't got your thoughts on this, Culture. However, given the fact that your stinger says boring war, I would assume you thought it was very boring. So do you want to just give us your thoughts on Civil
Yeah,
War?
yeah, I guess my stinger gave away my position, but it's true. Honestly, I get very frustrated when films are misleading, when especially trailers are misleading when you go to a film. The trailer in this was incredibly misleading. The reason it was so boring was there was nothing to it. The through line was traveling from point A to point B in what some people are telling me was supposed to be a road trip movie, and I'm like, no, road trip
Lol.
road trip movies are
Lamau.
supposed to, yeah, are supposed to be exciting and funny, and have things that are
Uh,
engaging along the way. There was nothing happened in this movie. There are great big moments, powerful moments in this film. It's beautifully shot. I mean, that's one of the things Alex Garland can do. But outside of this soundtrack, sound design, and the cinematography, I could not find myself caring less about the characters.
mm,
They intentionally made this not character driven. There was very little plot, if you want to call it such. And again, that's the through line. It's we need to go to DC so we can watch The Fall and interview the president. That's it, you know. And they don't explain how we got here, why we got here, what the time frame is on this. It could be today,
mm.
it could be 10 years from now. And it
Yeah.
just you tell me you cared about a character. I dare you.
Oh, no, no, no. So just real quick to address something you said. So WCW Dogger has super chat $3, and he says administrative results. Did a great review on Civil War. He's a gun channel on YouTube. He's a big nerd too. I think it would be neat if you discuss the film with him. Blah blah blah.
Wow.
Is it true they don't show how the war started? If so, pretty dumb in my opinion. So that's something you just said. I'll address the other thing in a minute. WCW.
Right.
That they actually do address it in passing.
Yeah,
So the
sure.
president disbanded the FBI and then kind of forced a third term into power. And that's essentially what happened. Basically, that is how it started. WCW, and also to you, culture. Um, this film was awful on many levels. So this is one of those kind of films that I like to call right. A few things, right? This is one of the greatest examples of false advertisement I've seen for a very long time. You watch the
Yeah.
trailer, you are expecting a war film. You are expecting heavy action. You don't get heavy action. Some people are praising the action. I don't know what kind of action films you've watched, but my God, you must have lived a very sheltered life because this was not an action film by any stretch of the imagination. It was terrible. So awful false advertisement, really quite egregious, actually, false advertisement. This is a story about just losing the will to live, essentially. I've got to watch 2 hours worth of Kirsten Dunst's sour ass face. I mean, it's
Oh.
awful. She's the least engaging actress out there. There's a reason why she's not in films, generally speaking, nowadays, because she's not a very good actor and she's not very engaging. The people are like, oh my God, it was so tense. What? The first time there was a silence? The second time, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the 10th, maybe? No, at that point, it's becoming gratuitous. The overuse of complete silence in a film like this did nothing but detract from heavy elements where there should have been, quite a lot of tension and sort of building drama. A good score would have been better. And loads of people are like, well, what would have made it better then? Like going into, so you'd have to pick a side, really? No. Like, there's so many better ways you could have told this story. You could have had the journalists still crossing over America, and you could have had them interacting with different factions and learning the story from the different factions, because they only follow one side. They don't follow the other faction, right? So actually, in a certain way, you could say there's an element of bias there. There's not, but you could say there maybe is. But you could have them interacting with different factions and them learning being a journalist, for God's sake, like interviewing people, right, and learning the sort of reasons why certain people are doing certain things and why they believe in certain things. And that could have been a quite interesting character study of the two tribalistic, polar opposite politics in the States right now. That could have actually been quite interesting. But clearly this film was written by a moron, and so we didn't get that. Even the most interesting character in the trailer was Jesse Plemons with his, well, what kind of American are you? That line alone could have opened itself up to a fantastic character study of what someone considers to be a true American. At what point are you an American? Are you an American because you gain citizenship? Are you American because you pledge allegiance to the flag? Well, what flag at that point in a civil war? There's so many more things you could have done, but no, he was just a murdering hillbilly. Like, fuck off. Excuse the language, with this utter garbage. It was so incredibly bad. Also, don't even get me started on turning your flashlights up a dark flight of stairs when you're trying to remain hidden. They turn their flashlights going up soldiers turn their flashlights on their guns going up a dark flight of stairs trying to remain hidden. Oh, smart. I hate this film. It was incredibly boring. It was a massive waste of my money. I'm glad that the video's done well because I would have earned my money back at the very least on that. But it was a waste of my time. My time has an inherent value far and above what this film provided. Thoughts? Any more culture, please? From
I mean, look, this was a love letter to journalism that everybody in the world now hates. I mean, outside
it was $60 million as well. Oh my god! Sorry.
Yeah, they spent a lot of money, but actually this is the most expensive A24 film they've ever made, and it didn't have any action scenes in it outside of the very end at the end of the third act. But no, it was a love letter to mainstream journalism, journalism I call it, and nobody likes them. Less than 3 in 10 Americans right now trust anything that comes out of mainstream journalism. So that number alone should tell you, don't make the heroes of your story or the protagonists of your story journalists, because we don't care. I mean, we are wildly separated from the times of like Apocalypse Now and things like that, right? Where you could talk about things, from that angle, this all these kinds of things. These types of films have to be made in a very specific way. And ultimately, I mean, they did follow the winning team into the final scene of this thing. But these are spoilers because hopefully none of you go see this movie because you will be wasting your money. But you don't care about these characters. So when they die, when some of them die, you feel nothing. Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest thing. Now, I'm sure you've heard something about this, Chris.
Oh yeah, I've just heard that the filmmakers just didn't have the courage or the conviction of, say, like a Spike Lee or an Oliver Stone or somebody who would have really ramped this up. It's like they played it too safe, and they didn't develop the characters. And even though Nate is telling us how we got to this state, I hear if you had taken a bathroom break, you would have missed it and not known anything about
it's a blink and you'll miss it.
Why we're in this state. And that it was kind of that I've heard that it was just sort of a weak anti-Trump avatar that Nick Offerman plays with his big red tie.
You wouldn't have been able to tell.
I didn't really feel that, but
apparently it did well though. I'm wondering how next weekend's going to do. I think a lot of people probably went hoping that it was going to be what the trailer promised, and now
I mean, there's not exactly a lot of people watching it. 500 plus verified ratings is not a ton on a movie.
No, that's true. It's the biggest opening ever for A24 though.
Yeah, I mean, good for them. This will fall off of a cliff next weekend.
That's what I think.
The opening weekend is how good the marketing is done. Outside of that, it's how good the film is, and it's going to crater. It'll crater next weekend, and rightly so as well. This is an exercise in apathy. That's what this film is. It's an exercise in apathy because you're apathetic watching it. You're like, why am I here? Like, what am I actually doing here? I could be at home. And then all the characters, whoever dies, whatever, you're like, I don't care either. Like, why? What? what is this? What's the point of any of this? It's an exercise in apathy. That I think that perfectly sums up this movie.
Yeah,
It was
and
an
it's
epic waste of time.
and,
Very
and
disappointing, actually.
yeah, but here's the thing: I wanted to see it, and I went with the right couple of people to go see a film because I wanted to get their going to be very different opinions about it, and that was the thing. And I didn't even talk about that in my review, but that was the whole reason why I took people with me, is because I wanted to get the scattered different political spectrum opinion from them, and they had the same kind of civil yawn. Yes, they kind of had the same opinion. I mean, outside of the soundtrack, and again, the score is not good, but the soundtrack is good because they pair some elements, some songs with scenes very well. They played like De La Soul when they were in the high school sports stadium. Like I was like, wow, that's out of place.
From a technical perspective, the film's great, but the thing is, it's also to its detriment because they're including scenes and shots just because they're pretty. They don't serve any other purpose but they're pretty. From a narrative perspective, like visually, they're not adding anything extra to the movie. It's just, it's a pretty shot, we'll do that. I don't need that. Like, give me some more substance as well. You know, like I can go watch another film which is style and substance, right? Like I don't want just style.
I remember when this movie first got announced, the first trailer dropped, a lot of people were expecting it to be, you know, a real bomb thrower, really controversial, which it sounds like it wasn't. And I wonder if there was some changes in post-production. Maybe there was some pushback about some scenes. I would be interested to find out a little bit more about what happened.
But I mean, it's 2 hours long anyway. So I can't
wow, that doesn't sound like they cut anything.
And
it's an hour and 49 or something like that. So yeah, basically 2 hours.
I'm with you though, Chris. That's my suspicion is they gutted the film.
Maybe.
I mean, it just and
just padded it out just to get a runtime. I don't know.
Throughout it. Every once in a while, I was jarred by how how scenes kind of were cobbled together. It was very odd. Convoluted is probably the accurate way to describe how it went about things. I couldn't believe some of the stuff that was in this movie. And then at the same time, you're going, that's a really pretty shot.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't add anything extra to anything, does it? You're just like, that's a good shot. Cool.
You know, Deadline reported that they followed the ComScore post track and they asked people what their political persuasions were.
Why were they doing that?
That was surprising to me. That's why I think more people expected it to be a lot more controversial than it is. And that it was going to be sort of this fantasy about, you know, a MAGA Civil War movie and Trump was, you know, the villain or something, I guess. But most of the people that went to see it, according to them, were liberals and Democrats, about 40%.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, you're right. We got Dragon Reborn has tipped $5, and he says it's funny how Kirsten Dunst is 41, but looks like she's in her early to mid 50s.
Oh, poor Kirsten.
Or is that her sour face and bad acting that made her look like that? I don't know, but it was certainly 2 hours of an incredibly sour ass faced Kirsten Dunst. Bloody my god, an annoying young girl as well. Kaylee Spaney's character. Fucking pain in the ass.
You know, I mean, I'm trying to figure out. In no world would that have happened where these, adult professional journalists going into a war zone allow a little whiny 23-year-old.
Well, she's an adult, technically. So I mean, you would maybe. I don't know.
Again, you're trying to get an exclusive picture. You're bringing your own competition along with you. So I mean, it's just weird.
I think making prostitutes the hero of your movie is a bit out of touch too these days. Or what did you call them? Not prostitutes. What did you call them?
Urinalists.
Urinalist. Okay.
Yeah. No, I like that. I mean, so I like that. It's a weird situation. And again, this girl that they bring along, this little 23-year-old, she's shooting on film.
I know, yeah, but it never runs out, apparently. She's not carrying any more either.
She has a mobile developing
thing
that she brings with her.
Come on,
yeah, man. She's super cool.
That makes less sense than the flashlights pointing up the stairs, honestly.
None of it looks great.
Oh dear, oh dear. Right, well, we'll shuffle on.